Welcome. I'm Kelly Kearney from Starry Constellation Magazine, and today I'm thrilled to speak with an artist who has been defying genres, challenging gender norms with their music for 30 years, celebrating the 25th anniversary of their critically acclaimed album, Everything I Need, by bringing a fresh sound to those beloved songs. It's my pleasure to welcome the talented singer songwriter, Melissa Ferrick. Welcome, Melissa.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sorry to say 30 years. It doesn't feel like 30 years. It went very quickly, right?
Yeah, yeah, and at the same time, aren't we proud that we're still here and smiling after 30 years? I think that's the way to look at it for sure.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into your early music influences. Talk a little bit about who influenced you to kind of jump into this career.
Yeah, I think well, from a popular music standpoint, um, I was really into anything goth when I was in my early teens. So what I mean by that is like The Cure, Gene Loves Jezebel, The Church,
Mm.
Susie and the Banshees, stuff like that. Anything kind of like, I wear black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside. And then like singer-songwriters like The Smiths, which I just, quoted. And then also on the flip side of that, I was obsessed every night I would go to sleep with Magic 106.7, which is a very famous soft rock station here. And so melodically, I was getting that, and stylistically, I was getting the goth English singer-songwriter mostly. Um, and then I do want to kind of shout out when I was 16 and I was first kind of coming out of the closet. Um, Edie Brickell, the New Bohemians album, Shooting Rubber Bands at the Stars, was a life-changing album for me. I discovered that before, it was before the Indigo Girls, before Tracy Chapman, and I think just before, or maybe at the same time as Suzanne Vega's first album. So Suzanne Vega's
Yeah.
first album was also a huge record at the Indigo Girls' first, that land. REM was in that mix, but there were some women that were making records near the end of my high school career, and then ultimately for me it was Joan Armatrading that really just sealed the coffin, and Sinead O'Connor. So that was it. Sinead and Joan Armatrading were really the reason why I became a singer songwriter. And I was lucky enough to tour with Joan Armatrading, which made me feel like that was just a few years back, and I kind of felt like when I did that tour, I could put a bit of a checkbox on my seeking validation. Because when Joan Armatrading says, "Wow, you sounded great," when you walk off stage, it's kind of like the greatest compliment I could have ever gotten. So
Yeah, and you mentioned, the Smiths. It's funny. Every band that you mentioned was obviously what I grew up on as well. And you mentioned the Smiths, and I don't know if fans know this, but you kind of filled in on a tour with Morrissey in the '90s, like your first big sort of like outing, right? As an artist, that must have been wild.
yeah, I mean, he's that tour was the reason my career. I mean, there's a mindset that if that hadn't happened, I don't know how my career would have unfolded. I would like to think that it would have, and then I would have had the opportunity to make records, but I don't know. I was 20 years old, and it was supposed to just be one show in Boston that they needed an opening act, and it's just one of those stories, a Cinderella story, really, where um, although that's probably not the greatest word for it. But anyway, yeah, I just got the rest of the tour the next day, and then I went to the UK with him, and then I got signed to Atlantic Records. I mean, and that all happened within a year. So I did the tour in July. It was the Kill Uncle tour.
Yep, I saw
And
you
by
actually
that,
on that
yeah, by
tour.
that fall, I was signed. That fall, I was signed to Atlantic. So I was 20 years old. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. You've been making music, like I said earlier, for 30 years, but you were also the only that I can think of, only openly queer artist in the '90s, in the early '90s. How has that identity influenced your music career? How does it help or hinder the trajectory of it, do you think? Like looking back on
Mm.
it now.
Yeah, I came out right after Melissa Etheridge came out, I think. I'm pretty sure because I came out publicly in 1995. Um,
Mhm.
Atlantic had asked me if I would come out during my first record in 1993, um, really to support the publicity of the album. They opened the first, Atlantic Records had the first gay, it was called at that time, gay marketing division, which is, in hindsight, trailblazing. But I was afraid to come out in 93. And at that time, I didn't want to have my sexual orientation used as leverage, for my validity as an
Mm.
artist. Um, and so, I mean, so many things have changed for the better now. I mean, also just like the idea that someone would ask me my sexual orientation is just, I'm a teacher now, so kids, young people these days are like, people would ask you like
Yeah.
what gender you wanted to. I mean, just like the whole thing is so backwards now. So yeah, but I came out in 95, and I think I didn't. I think it definitely didn't help my career at that time. I also had a lot of backlash from within the queer community, within the gay community, the lesbian community. My first name was Melissa. We had Melissa Etheridge. Melissa Etheridge was really famous. She
Yeah.
played the guitar. I was dubbed the other Melissa.
Mm.
It was terrible, really, to be honest with you. It was really hard. I had Melissa Etheridge fans that would come to my shows wearing Melissa Etheridge t-shirts and like yelling at me, which isn't, I don't really talk about that much, but I'm talking about it now because I think it's time to talk about it. And I do feel like our community, the queer community, is now so much more supportive of each other that I would hope that
Yeah.
that wouldn't happen now. And yeah, it was really weird. Not Melissa Etheridge herself, just
Right.
it was tough. I was not famous like Melissa Etheridge, and I got dropped, and it was a really difficult time. So I had to come out of the mid '90s and find myself again, which I did when I made um, Everything I Need, which is this record that I just re-released, and that came out in 1998,
Eight.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
1998.
98, because Freedom came out in 1999. And I made both those records with What Are Records, and then I opened up my own record label. So this really is the first record of me claiming who I was, and my own rebirth and my own identity. I wasn't trying to be famous anymore. I wasn't trying to be somebody other people told me I should be. And I was indie again. I wasn't on a major label. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I've got to break into stadiums, because
Right.
that mindset is so top 40 radio, I mean, when someone else named Melissa, who's also a lesbian, has a top 40 hit and she's on a major label, it's kind of like that was what I thought that
Was the
was what I thought
goal.
yeah, well, not only was it the goal, but it was what if that didn't happen, you just got dropped, if you weren't successful. Come to find out, that happens no matter what your name is and no matter how you identify. Because a lot of my friends got dropped too. Jill Sobule is somebody else that got dropped. And,
Mm.
lots of us did. Mary Carson, who made a brilliant record that was on Atlantic, she also got dropped. So yeah, it's just it's an interesting. There's more to it when you dive down a little bit deeper about what was going on back then. Yeah.
It's interesting because back then I feel like if you were considered a gay artist, and now you're
Hmm.
considered an artist who happens to possibly be queer or gay or whatever, but it's not the label that starts before the artist anymore. Whereas in the '90s, it would be Melissa Etheridge, the gay singer. Now it's Melissa Ferrick, who happens to also identify as queer, and she's also a
Hmm.
teacher, and it's not your identifying art and being just gay and a musician. So things have really changed, and I'm obviously grateful for it. We talked about the album Everything I Need, and now it's back to Q Sessions, this new
Hmm.
recording. I was listening to it; these familiar tracks. It felt like I was watching you live. The instrumentation is scaled back, it's stripped back to nothing. There's no drums, it's just you. It brings that energy, that live energy of just you and the guitar. And it really captures what it's like to see you live. What led to that take on this approach for this re record?
Well, I'm so grateful to hear you say that. That means a lot. And you're the first person I've actually interviewed on this record, so that
Oh,
like
that's
makes me tear
awesome.
up a little bit because that is exactly what I'm wanted to do with these re-releases, and I'm doing Q sessions for all of my albums a year at a time. I'm going to do them this way. It's an easy it's easy because it is me live. I go into a recording studio, we set up a bunch of fantastic gear. My Patreons basically paid for half of this. Kill Rock Stars supported the other half, and I go in and in about 8 hours I perform the entire album. I have to relearn the albums because many of these songs I hadn't played in years. But yeah, they're all what we refer to in then, as one takes. In other words, there's absolutely no overdubs. I don't go back in and sing anything. There are notes that are pitchy. There are notes that I almost miss on the guitar. Um, it is a performance. It is a moment in the studio playing a song live in a room, and I am absolutely positively better live. I have not made a produced album that touches what happens when I play live. And some artists are like that. They are live artists, and something magical happens, and you can't explain it. Uh, and then they kind of try to make records. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and then
and
there's
kind of
people
like
who make,
pare it
yeah,
down in the studio.
totally. And then there's people who make amazing albums, and then you go and see them live, like especially solo. If you tried to go see them solo, you'd be like, that was really boring.
Yeah.
And I won't name any, but I'm really glad that at my age, at this point in my career, I really know that about myself, and it's really okay. And I still like making produced albums because it's fun. It's fun to try. And I have made good albums, but it's just not the same as seeing me live. It's almost like seeing two different artists, really.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I did it, and I'm psyched about it. I will say, yeah, I life is a remix. I always say that. And like, there's a couple, particularly just vocal notes that are out of pitch on Everything I Need the Key sessions that I just wish I could fix. But when I realized that when I was mixing it all together, I was like, Melissa, like, just let it go. Like, this is exactly what you wanted it to be. Your fans are going to love this. This is a live show, but in a controlled environment where the audio is actually really fantastic,
Right.
you know? So
Well, it felt like when I was listening to it, immediately I felt like I was watching on stage, but I almost could feel, I don't want to say a heartbeat, but a little bit like a heartbeat on the stage. So when you said that you just went in, did it for 8 hours live, it felt like that. So fans, if you haven't gotten it yet, and you totally should listen to it, it's being streamed right now. It's just absolutely what you would imagine you sound like if you were to record while you're playing live. It was just so well done. Was the anniversary of the album the reason why you went back, or was that something you always kind of wanted to do because now you're doing your other albums this way?
that's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I had been conjuring up what I would do next when I hit 50 years old, and I thought, it'd be really cool, and I have kind of started it with the Tegan and Sarah cover, to release a song by artists who have helped me, or that I have helped, Jerry Maguire, whatever, that we have helped each other, or I've worked with in some capacity. Um, as a kind of, I first kind of named this album invisibly in my head, looking back at me, looking back at you, as in
Mm.
reflection of. So I talked to Slim and Sydney about it at Kill Rock Stars, and they love the idea. Uh, and Slim said, I'm going to throw years out at you, and what album came out, 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary, and it was close enough with everything I need. I think it's off by a year, but Slim said, "Don't worry about it. It's close enough." And I had the Tegan and Sarah. I had already asked for clearance from Tegan about that. Um, and I just was so happy with that recording. I love it, and I just decided to do everything I need, even though I was getting like kind of too myopic about it, being like, well, that wasn't the album that Tegan and Sarah and I toured. And it was just like, just do it. Who cares? So I don't know if I'll do a Morrissey song next, or an Ani song next or something, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm really excited. I love doing cover songs now. And if the cover song gets me to re-record Freedom, which I'm going to do this in January and put that out next year, I just really it's like there's a path now, like I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So I can write new songs. I'm doing lots of co-writing. I'm a booking agent now. I'm booking other bands. So I have a lot of other things that I'm doing. So to kind of attack my catalog in this way for myself and also for my fans to just be like, let's do these ones again, guys. Like it feels like every show now is a best of show. So it feels really lovely. I am thrilled that I got to put everything I need out on vinyl, which will be done, in a couple weeks. Um, I don't know if that will be financially, if I'll be able to do that for every album, put them on
Right.
vinyl because it's so expensive. But we'll see how it goes. It's just, one record at a time here. And I'm pretty sure I got to do it with Freedom because Drive's on Freedom. So,
Yeah.
um, and there'll be another, so like on everything I need on the vinyl and on the streaming, I think I attached Black Dress, which was a newer
Yeah.
song I had written and a cover
Yep.
song. So hopefully with every album I re-record, I'll have one new song of and one new Melissa Ferrick song and one cover. That's kind of the bookending idea we have.
Well, I was thinking about that, the last two songs on this Q Sessions, because I'm a longtime fan. I've always loved this album because when it opens, it feels like this is who I am. The beginning of the song, it's like it lays it out. This is who I am. This is what you're going to hear. And as the songs progress, it gets kind of climactic. It gets a little anxious. It gets a little bit tense, and then it kind of has these quieter, melodic, kind of like a long-awaited exhale after that. It kind of
Mm.
goes like a roller coaster. So when I was listening to it, and then I got to the end, and I heard these two new songs. I heard the cover of the Tegan and Sarah song, "Where Does the Good Go," and the new song, "Black Dress." What was it about those two songs that you felt like fit in with that flow?
Nothing. No. So those songs are just like, and this will be the same for Freedom. It will just be a cover song by an artist I've worked with in the past, produced in whatever way I want at that time. It might be just acoustic, it might be fully produced. I might do the next one with strings. I don't know, just like whatever I feel like doing. And then whatever song I have written that cycle, in this case, it was Black Dress, which I did. I produced with my friend David Brophy. Um, so and then Black Dress was a rock song. I played everything on it. I'm playing the drums on that one too. That was just wicked fun to record. So it doesn't matter to me if sonically those other songs make any sense with the re-release of the album. They're really just bonus tracks.
Uh-huh.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally does. I have to ask about Black Dress as I was listening to it. Hotter than a black dress. What kind of dress are we talking about here, Melissa? Is there like a personal story that goes along with this black dress
Mm, yeah, 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 sure.
that you can talk about?
Yeah.
That you can talk about.
No, no, it's fine. No, I dated a woman who is a therapist for about 4 months. And it was just a real blast. I had it was just a situation where I'm sure many people can relate to this, where I had just been in a long-term thing and I had come out of that and was feeling pretty like, will I ever, want to connect again? I'm tired, I'm getting old, it was like all those things. And then I met this woman and it was like, holy crap. And so yeah, so I don't, yeah, we dated or whatever you want to call it. And it was amazing. And she's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. She's incredibly hot and beautiful, and it was awesome. And we dated for 5 months, and I say this at shows, but like we did kind of high five out with each other. We were like, "Are we good?" Like it wasn't. I think you meet people at crossroads sometimes to help each other through whatever, and that can look, and that interaction can be different things.
Yeah,
Um, so anyway, so she's a friend, and it's not weird or anything, but yeah, like
I love that
I got
lyric,
that song
honestly.
out of it.
Hotter than a black dress. All right. What kind of dress am I imagining here as I'm listening to this? I
Oh
love that
yeah.
song, though.
Well,
Is there,
reminded me of. I mean, it was certainly like an Audrey Hepburn reference. Is like
yeah, yeah,
what's like that dress that back in the day where you would hear like everybody or everyone should have the simple black dress
yeah.
because it always works. Or for me, like jeans and a white T-shirt always works. Or like a black turtleneck always works. And there's just nothing. It's classic, and it's hot, and so I was like, what? Yeah, what? And then I thought about like a red dress because it's fire, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
dumb. And then when I saw black and I saw Audrey Hepburn, I was like, it's black dress, it's not a red dress. And I think it's a great hook. I mean, I'd love to hear another band do that song.
Oh yeah,
I think
that's a
that could
great
be
idea.
I think that could be a like a country rock pop song, big time.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a great addition. Is there a song on this re-release that you hope fans will rediscover this new version and fall in love with again, or maybe a song that you rediscovered and fell in love with again while you were making it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been partial to the song I Like It That Way. I think because of the bridge. Yeah, because it's my cross to bear, my cross to carry, so I'll leave it there at the bottom of the stairs. And I'll get it later when it's more convenient, when I'm a little less conceited and I've got time to spare. Um, because it's so where I was sometimes at, so arrogant, so self-consumed, and so self-centered fear, a lot of it. And I think just that idea, and even the way I would sing it, of just, yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll get it later when it's more convenient for me. Like like when I'm ready, I'll like, oh God, that is just so hard to, and I have so much love for that, Melissa. But yeah, it's a yearning, it's a beckoning, it's a cry for help is really what it is. And so I think this recording of that song, I changed the melody in the verses and started on a not a tonic, or not the one or the three, or not a I think I started on the fourth, which musically just it's more of a who knows if it'll work this time, so there's no kind of, it starts on a very uncomfortable note.
Uh-huh.
um and it reflects the content. So from a songwriting, just as a songwriter now, I have more tricks like that. I have more tools in my toolbox to understand how would I approach this lyric content melodically so that it supports what I'm trying to say. Rather than when I was a younger writer, I would just kind of go for the more major melody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm proud of that work that I did on that song. And I also think that the song "It's All Right" is just a real fun song, and
I love that song.
yeah, and I really didn't realize how sensual so many of the lyrics are, how grounded in body so much of my work is, and in physicality, in sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Not sexuality of like what is my sexual orientation, but in sex, like and I think that that's really cool. I was like, wow, a lot of my songs are like kind of about lots of different kinds of making out or something. Like laying in bed and turn the lights on and you got yours, I want mine. It's like, wow. It's like I just I don't really think about my own material that way until I dissect it as
Right.
almost like the teacher, I go back in. So yeah, I'm pretty proud that I was doing that kind of work in 1998. We see queer artists doing that kind of work. Look at Billie Eilish, and I mean, her stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But I feel a little bit like an OG. Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, I think the younger generation needs someone to aspire to, just like you did with the people that you followed. I mean, obviously, those were great choices. I agree with that. But if Billie Eilish catches on to this album and then loves it, I mean, more power to everyone, right? Every artist has like this unique way of transforming an idea into a finished song. What is your songwriting process? Do you have any rituals or sort of routines that you do to get creative?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's interesting. I think I've definitely thought about this a lot because I think about it a lot, and because I try to teach it. Teaching songwriting is an interesting thing. I really think it's more teaching creative process, or like you're talking about. What are your rituals? What is the space you're in? How do you notice when you're honoring the fact that it's time to write? Are you putting your butt in the seat every day,
Mm.
the way Anne Lamott talks about, or Elizabeth Gilbert talks, I mean, many, Stephen King talks about, I mean, um,
Fran Lebowitz, I saw her recently, and she was talking to students about saying, you can't teach art; you have to just do it every
you have
single
to
day.
do it. You have to do it every single. I find that when I create a space to write, I'll like make my writings in here. I'll be like, I'm gonna clean off my desk. I'm gonna make a space where I'm. Never happens. I never write in that space. I write on the couch with the TV on, with my computer next to me and my phone and my cat, all sorts of distractions, and I'm muting. So I really, but I do write, and I try to read, which is very hard for me because I don't love reading. So I try to read little essays, or daily affirmations are helpful for me. So I do those things. Co-writing has been very helpful in the last decade, because it makes me do the work. So
Gotcha.
I have to be accountable. And honestly, Zoom was very helpful for this because I was, as many of us were, craving human interaction because I felt like the world was ending. And
Yeah.
so when it was like, I'll meet you at 2 o'clock in a Zoom room, let's write. I have friends that created knitting groups during Zoom, and they didn't even talk to each other. It was just about being in space, right? And kind of sitting back and then being like, oh, did you watch that show? So that normalized co-writing on Zoom sessions. So it's really happening a lot now. So I don't have to be in LA or in Nashville or
Right.
so that's really great. But for me, still to this day, songs they begin by coming from somewhere else. And I do feel a bit like a vehicle, and we all, hearing different artists talk about like ideas will come to me, and if I don't write them down, they go away, they disappear, and I have to get them down. And then it's my job to massage them and to take care of them, and then as best I can, and then put them out there, and then they get massaged again. They get manipulated and molded and turned into, they mean different things to different people. It's really quite mystical, but I do know that with songwriting, there definitely are decisions that are made, as I get near the point where I'm ready to start playing them live. There are
Yeah.
decisions, when am I breathing? Are there too many articles? Is the chorus too short? How do I want to start this? But that all comes, for me, after lyric. I
Hmm.
have many students who write from track up, we call it, or, from the beat up. They're not used to having the word yet. So when I ask them, well, what is the song about? They don't know yet. They just create a groove, and then they place their lyric and their melody over the top of it. We call that top line writing, which is the lyric and the melody. I start with top line. So I start with lyric and melody comes to me, and then I go find the music.
Hmm.
Um, so it is, most of the time I find that writers they're either that way or the other way. There's two ways in, kind of. Um,
Hmm.
Not to say that I haven't written a guitar lick and then written the lyric, but 99% of the time it comes lyric first.
Yeah. So, what do you think it is about the original album? Now it's being re-released. What do you think it was that caught the critics' attention, caught the fans' attention? Because I was listening to it, and then I was kind of listening to a little bit of your later work and stuff like that, and I was thinking to myself, what was it about this album that just caught the zeitgeist at the time?
Yeah, I think I had, well, there was a lot of press about me before Everything I Need. I mean, my name recognition has always been bigger than my actual sales. I mean, I wish my name recognition equaled my bank account, but being on it, doing the Morrissey tour, being on Atlantic Records, those were two absolutely huge uh, things that catapulted my name into spotlights that I never ever would have gotten in without them. And I'm so grateful for that. The tours I went on tour with Paul Westerberg and Mark Cohn and John Hyatt when I was on Atlantic. I mean, it was crazy. Um, So I was coming off of that. I had a big mailing list back in, like, I was getting mailing list names, like physical addresses from the Morrissey tour, where we would send
Wow.
postcards out. And so I definitely had already an entrepreneurial mindset at that time. I could see that it was coming. Um, and so I think I just carried uh, that arsenal with me into my indie release. It was the first release I had. So I got dropped from Atlantic in 95. Willing to Wait came out in April of 1995. But that record actually did very well, particularly in Europe. And so I toured that record for almost a full year, and it was 96. And I started making Everything I Need in the spring of 1997.
Mm.
Is that right? Maybe the fall of 97. It was probably the fall of 97. And then it just, by the time we packaged it all together, it came out in 98. So it wasn't long. If you consider 96 to 98, it was a 3 year period of time.
With a
And
tour in the middle.
I was touring, yeah, and I
Yeah.
put out a very small live album called Plus One, which was recorded at Largo in Los Angeles, in between those two records. So I just think I think that the name recognition and the song "Everything I Need" was
Yeah.
extremely catchy. I had a good producer, Rob Loffer. Um, yeah, I mean, I had gotten sober, so there was like a whole new level of clarity for me in my life. I think that also certainly, I am a person who is pretty spiritual, and I do think that there's a level of like light around that
Waking
album
up.
that, yeah, I mean, I don't know what that is, but maybe, yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit about your collaborations, I was thinking back about how I saw you on the Kill Uncle tour. I think it was the first time I saw you, and I think later on, I don't remember if you did the Lilith Fair or if you had done. Yeah, so I think when I've seen you there, I've seen you come on stage. I think with the Indigo Girls one time.
Mhm.
So I've seen you a few times in collaborations and also live on your own. So we talked about you've collaborated with Bob Dylan, you've shared the stage with Bob Dylan, Ani DeFranco, Morrissey, so many people. Are there any upcoming collaborations you can discuss that you might be working on or you're thinking about getting the wheels rolling on?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I have a fantastic co-write with my friends, Mary Gaucher and Laurie McKenna, a song called Making Our Younger Selves Proud that fans are just going nuts over at the live show. I know that we've been pitching it to other artists to get it recorded. It hasn't gotten picked up yet. So at this point, which is kind of surprising because it's real good. But at this point, I think I will release it because
Mm-hmm.
I do it well, I perform it well, and it means something to me. I'm attached to it. Um, so that's really cool. I don't have any other, I don't think, unless I'm completely forgetting something. But no, I mean, my focus now is really shifting. I'm really loving booking. I have one, two, three. I have three musicians and one comedian that I'm working with, and nothing brings me more joy, really, honestly, than helping other artists get gigs. It's just it's live, it's booking live shows, and it is where I belong. I belong in a club. That's my happy place. And so really, I always knew, even when I started, I would be like, it doesn't matter if I'm the guitar tech or the lead singer, like this is where I belong. These are my people. And it's just so cool to have come this far in my life and to realize like that really is true. I really am 100% into just being in the live music business, in the scene, whether it's playing or carrying somebody else's guitar. I was wrapping cables for somebody the other day. Just like everything makes me happy about being in a club. Um, so now when I play live, when I do shows, when I do Melissa Ferrick shows, it really does feel like I feel happier than I've ever felt in some ways playing live, because I'm really not seeking success as Melissa Ferrick, the artist. I'm really not. It's just, I can give you an example if you want. I had a show in Hudson, New York a few weeks ago. Um, and I think about 11 people were there. I
Mm.
brought a band with me that I'm helping to that I'm booking. They're called Sweet Petunia. And I thought, man, like I had taught all week. I was exhausted. It's not a long drive when you're 50 something. It was 4 hours out there. I didn't have a hotel. I was going to drive back, the whole thing. But, I just was like, all right, I'm just going to play this. Like somebody's here. Just do it. It's going to be awesome. I did it and I got an email a week later from somebody that was at that show. I played the song Making Our Younger Selves Proud at that gig. And that song was written on in C, open C. So you need a baritone guitar. I don't have a baritone guitar. And I told the story. I used to have a baritone guitar, but in the 2000s when I was putting records out all on my own at Right On Records every year, I put a record out every year for like 9 or 10 years in a row. I went bankrupt, and I had to claim Chapter 13 anyway, half bankrupt. And one of the months while this was happening, I couldn't pay my mortgage, so I sold my baritone guitar in order to pay it, which is just what I had to do. So I just told that story kind of randomly, and uh, and 2 weeks later, you probably know the end of the story. A fan emailed me and was like, "Hey, how much is that a baritone guitar?" And I didn't really think anything of it, and I wrote them back and was like, "Oh my God, well, there's this, there's a couple, there's like that's a pretty broad question. I mean, you could
Yeah.
spend $10,000 on a baritone guitar." So anyway, and they sent me a check for $2,500, to buy a guitar
Amazing.
so that I could record this song. And it's like you show it, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I've learned this over and over again. If I just keep showing up, life unfolds, you know. But if I don't show up, or if I'd shown up in Hudson and been like, oh, we only sold 11 tickets, it's going to cost the club more money to put my show on, which it did, you got to pay the bartender, you got to pay the door person. I
Right.
mean, everybody's losing money tonight. But maybe we can just bring joy to these 11 or 12 people. And I did that. And then in the end, this person gave back to me. So I just think that really is such a great example of how crazy blessed I am with the fan base that I have, or with what my music, or the music that comes out of me, is attracting,
Yeah.
um, which is
11
the
people or
passing it on.
11,000 people. It doesn't matter. 11 people
Doesn't
or
matter.
11,000 people, Melissa, if your music touches someone, changes their idea about themselves, about the
Yep.
world, about their path in life, that means something. People carry that with them. And so, of course, if they want to help, they're going to give you that. I think that's an amazing example of how important art can be to people. They don't know you outside of what you've given them. And that's maybe the only thing that they could give you back. It's kind of an amazing story.
It's just incredible, and it just ceases to amaze me. I just and when we talked about accountability before in the writing groups or whatever, this is another example of the back and forth, that there's the reverberation. And by me showing up and playing that show and playing that song, which was given to me also by my friends, right? Through COVID, this existence, how are we going to survive? Let's write a song about this. And then, well, here's $2,500 to buy that baritone guitar. Now I have to go record the song, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't not record it. And then when I record it, I'm going to put it out. So all these people who are emailing, being like, at the end of I'm not even joking, Kelly, like end of every show that I've played this song, they're like, what was the name of that song? They go nuts after the first chorus. I'm like, man, this song is really touching people. And so now I have to be accountable for that. So it's really, it's awesome. So anyway, I'm just kind of blown away by that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually blown away by that too. And it's just a little tiny example of how art can change people. Art can make them giving. Art can make them caring and want to give back to something that they felt you gave them. It wasn't something physical that you gave them. It's something. Whether it's a song that they really enjoyed or it was a feeling they got from it. It was really important to them enough to hope that you do record it. And you will be held accountable now for that. I guarantee it. You have
Well,
to
yeah.
play that song. What would you like to say to those fans who have followed you, supported you? They come to the tours, they buy your albums, They send you checks for baritone guitars. What would you
Yeah.
have to say to those fans, Melissa?
Yeah. I mean, I've said this at shows, which is that literally my fans have bought me everything I have physically. I mean, everything in my house has been purchased by, every guitar. I have saved the money I have made. I have invested back into my own work. I think that people, I just want to thank them for trusting me with their time and their lives, trusting me with their secrets, um, trusting me with their families, with their children, uh, and with their money. Yeah, and teaching me that giving without expectation is really probably the most beautiful way to live. Um, Helping me uh, crawl towards a sense of self-worth, um, really a year at a time in my life, every album, letting me be exactly who I am yeah, I have a relationship with my music, and my fans have a relationship with that music. I think I am an artist whose lyrics are much closer to who I really am than maybe a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
So it is hard sometimes when people think they know me just because of the lyrics. Um, but ex my willingness to be honest with with my work, I think has created space at my shows that is safe for people to also bring their most honest selves. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
really powerful space for the truth to come in to be in. So I do really believe that probably the reason why I'm able to be such a strong live performer is because the energy that occurs in the room when we're all together supports supports access to, for me, a spiritual connection that when I play, I'm not really present. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hovering. I'm hovering between consciousnesses, and the reason why I love to play live is really is the only time I don't think. And
Mm-hmm.
so for a person who, I move very fast in my brain, and it's exhausting. I'm not unique in this way. There's many, many people that are like this. It's why I drank, because drinking slowed it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it took a long time to learn that, this was a mental illness that, that was like it's called cyclothymia, which is like a hovering of mania. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes depression sometimes. And so
Very
learning
common with
ways to
artists.
yeah, learning
Yeah.
ways to kind of really center in this, and having my fans kind of understand that about, there's a lot of people, I mean, we're all out here just trying to get through. So playing music live helps me. It's part of my healing. It's part of me coming back to the center, really.